welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Who brings it to you real? Who brings it to you raw? We try to do that each and every single day. Not always easy to pump out a video daily, but I'm trying. You know, with my work schedule, some things get a little hectic and I get sidetracked. But anyway, if you've seen our videos before, go ahead and hit that like button. Once you watch the video, if you don't like it, you can always take it back, but I hope that you don't. Notifications. I know some of you are not getting notified. We're trying to contact YouTube, try to get that fixed. But hit that notification button so you know when a video drops. You can be first to see it. Also, share this video. Somebody needs to hear it. And hit that comment. The comments are important. Why? Because it's not my channel, it's our channel. We're going to grow it together. You know, when you guys comment, it gives me input. Tell me what you want to see, what you like, what you don't like. We get better together. But anyway, today's video is about the most disliked people in prison. And if you've been to prison, you know who's number one on the list, right? If you haven't been to prison, you probably got a good idea. So number one on that list of disliked people are who? Go ahead, take a guess. Chomos. Chomos, the only people that like chomos are chomos, pretty much. But that's because their victims are innocent. Their victims don't deserve, what's been done to them. And in Big Sandy, very seldom, but once in a while, somebody will try to make it on the yard. They will come out. They will come out on the yard and make a go at it. You know, a lot of these dudes usually are people that have never been to prison before. They don't think that anything could happen to them. They think that the cops are there to save them. The cops will protect them. They're not going to get hurt. All the stuff they heard about prison, well, I'm going out here. Well, sometimes they try their luck, and it never works out. Sometimes I think the cops send them out there on purpose because they want them to be destroyed. The cops want them to come out and have somebody hurt them, stab them, beat them up. Usually in a federal maximum security prison, if they come out, they usually end up stabbed or they end up dead. In FCI, they end up beat up most of the time pretty bad. But where do they fester at? Where do they live? A lot of the times, these cats go to low security prisons. They go to low security prisons. They like each other. They get to watch TV. They get to hang out. Nobody really abuses them. I mean, every once in a while, people abuse them physically. Someone will beat them up or whatever. But a lot of times when they're at them lows, what happens is they get all their stuff stolen. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of them stories, There was a story that a kid had told me about from my city. Actually, a couple people had told me. One dude in particular had told me the stuff that they used to do at Fort Dix. And anybody that's watching this, if you've been to Fort Dix, you probably could relate. But there was a dude from my city, from Rochester, New York. They said, they have all the chomos. They're living in one room. Might be 15, 16 dudes in a room or something, 10, 11 dudes. And he would go in there on commissary day. And he'd bring a pillowcase with him and tell him, put something in my bag, man. And, on commissary day, he'd fill up a bag. He'd fill up a bag with other people's stuff, all the chomo stuff. Like this guy would put in a bag of rice. This other guy might put in a summer sausage. This guy over here, he might put in a couple mackerels. But he will walk around and fill up a commissary bag on commissary day. So, that's another form of abuse, right? Definitely in Lowe's, man, people get their stuff stolen all the time. Child molesters will get their stuff stolen. I'm going to tell you about FMC Lexington. We're going to get into the other stuff when we get up to the little higher security levels, what happens. But when I was in Lexington, when it came to guys that were in there for, doing bad things to kids, dudes would actually get a dolly. And, the chomo might be asleep. Chomo might be at work during the day. And they would take their whole locker. They would... I'm laughing because I'm thinking about when this stuff used to happen. Like, they would go in your room, and there are no locks on the doors in a low. They'd go to FMC Lexington with a dolly. They'd grab your locker, and they would remove your locker and take it to their room. Once they got to their room, they'd take the fire extinguisher off the wall. We got access to the fire extinguishers. And they would bust your lock off. There was another guy over there that could open them with these big, large staples. He'd stick them in the back of the keyhole, and he'd open the locks. And they'd just take all your stuff, everything. I don't care what it was. They'd take all your food. They'd take your stamps. They'd take your clothes. They would take your lamps. They would take your fan. And they would go sell it. They'd sell all your stuff. And then the dudes would come back from work. And when they get back from work, most of the time they go to the cop Tell them, someone stole my damn locker. And I remember one dude in particular, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. He had punched a hole through, because we do have these little glass pane windows, right? And he punched a hole through his window. His hands bleed. He goes down there and he starts crying. I mean, actually physically crying. They stole my stuff. Look at my hand. And the cop was like, well, what do you want me to do about it? And the dude was like, I want you to find my stuff. And the cop is like, nah, I don't care about your stuff, man. I'll call medical for you. He called medical, let the dude go get his hand wrapped. And then every once in a while, the cops would come in when people's stuff was stolen, and they'd act like they were looking around, but the cops didn't care either. Why? Because most of those cops have kids, man. And they don't like people that do stuff like that. That's what they do to you in a low-security prison, man, if you are a chomo. If you committed atrocities against kids. Those are the things that get done to you. Sometimes people just walk by and slap you. Not really physically abuse you much, but just a slap. Things like that happen over there. And the dude I was just telling you about that punched a hole in his window, anybody that's watching this, man, please leave a comment. Because if you were in FMC Lexington, you probably remember this. They had two different chow halls, right? Chow halls for guys that, didn't ever commit a crime like that. And a room for those dudes where they would eat. Well, this one particular dude, the same dude that punched a hole in the window, he kept sitting in the wrong mess hall. In the mess hall he wasn't supposed to be sitting in. And dudes had told him, hey, bro, stop sitting in here. I'm telling you now, stop sitting in this side. Go over there. And he wanted to be defiant. Screw you, I'm sitting where I want to sit. And he didn't say it verbally, but he did it physically. And one day he was sitting there, and I'll never forget this. This white dude took an apple, and he threw it like a fastball and hit him right in the face. Bang! And it was a crazy sight to see, because the dude just put his face in his hands, and he started crying. Just started sobbing. Long story short, he never sat in that chow hall ever again. He started sitting where he was supposed to sit at. But you always get them dudes that want to be tough, that want to venture off and, buck the system and, just like, well, I'm sitting where I want to sit, or I'm turning the TV if I want. And it usually doesn't work out for them cats. Not even at a low. I got two of my buddies that were in FMC Lexington. They're both in the halfway house. When they get out of the halfway house, I'm going to interview these dudes, and we're going to talk about, these things that happened over there. We had another guy in our unit. He had been robbed so many times that he started taking all his commissary with him everywhere he went. He'd put all his commissary and his sodas in his net bag. And if he went to the law library, he would take his net bag with him, put his clothes in there, his important clothes, his fan, all his valuables. And if he went to the rec yard, he would take all his stuff with him to the rec yard. He would do all that type of stuff. And you might be wondering why these guys can survive at a low. And I'm going to tell you why. And sometimes I just got to be honest. Sometimes I feel ashamed that I went to a low, that I lived in that environment. I think it was my last year, 13 months I lived there. And, I had spoke previously why I ended up in that prison. It's not an excuse. It's not about prison politics or being a tough guy. I just despise living around these people. But I had went there to FMC Lexington because they thought I had liver cancer. Wasn't true, worked out. I had non-alcoholic liver disease, but I'm all right now. But I just felt ashamed that I was living in that type of environment, being that I had came from that other place and, mediums and maximum security prisons. And now I'm around these dudes that were taught pretty much, man, to just have a wicked feeling for them and towards them. And I was living around them now. So it was tough, not easy at all to live that life around them cats. Medium security prisons. What happens to chomos in medium security prisons? They try those yards a lot more. And we're going to talk about the FCI that I was at. I was at Raybrook. And dudes would send these dudes up top. Most of the time they get beat up, slapped, kicked, punched. Things like that would happen at those prisons. And I'm going to tell you a story about one of them, right? There was a dude that came there. And he was a black dude. He was from Brooklyn. And I was in rec one time. And these are the things that happen, so you know. And, usually in prison, man, the rec officers, man, the guys that work the gym, work rec, they're a little more respectful, a little more all right with the dudes. I'm not saying, you go be best friends with cops, stuff like that. But they're kind of just different dudes. They grew up playing sports like most of us and stuff like that. And the rec officer called me. He said, man, I want to talk to you real quick. I'm like, okay, what's up? So I'm standing out in the gym, and I always keep separation between me and him too. You know, with any cops I ever talked to in prison, I would keep an open space so other people could see, hear, whatever. And that's something that most people should always do. So he's like, I want to show you something about this dude right here. And I'm like, what dude? He said, the dude right there from New York. He said, you're real good friends with the shot caller, right, Lex? And Lex was the shot caller at the time. Big dude from Brooklyn, about 6'4". He's like a brother to me. Big dude, black dude from Brooklyn. And I said, yeah. He said, well, I want you to tell him about this guy. And I'm like, what guy? He said, that guy right there playing basketball. So I'm like, what's up, man? It's kind of weird, right? Weird conversation we having with a cop. Like, what's up? He said, I want to show you something on the computer. I'm kind of like, damn, man, I don't want to go in the cop's office. He's like, come on, man, you need to see this, man. This dude, man, raped a bunch of little kids, man, and the New York dude should know that. So we go in the office. He shows me something real quick on the dude's PSI. He can pull up the PSI. He shows it to me, and he says, hey, man, tell Lex. So I'm like, damn, man, I'm real cool with Lex. So I go tell Lex. And Lex is like, I need to see that. And I'm like, well, dude, man, he don't really want to show you, you know what I mean? He just wanted to show. He's like, man, I need to see that. So we walk over to the office. I say, hey, man, Lex needs to see that. And he's like, you know, I'm like, look, man, you already went this far, man. He needs to see that. So when we go in there, into the office, I couldn't even believe what just happened, right? We go in the office. He's pulling it up. Lex takes the mouse from the cop and starts reading it himself. And Lex is like, man, this shit's crazy. And Lex looks at me. He says, man, this man showed me his paperwork, man. His shit was good. And what happens was the dude had got his paperwork changed. He had got his docket sheet changed and his judgment of commitment. He had that changed by his family on the computer. So he looked like he was just a regular dude. He's in there. He's got the Versace glasses on. He's from Brooklyn. He's talking the talk. But at the end of the day, man, the dude was a chomo. So what happened next was Lex had called some of the New York homies over there that were in the unit with him, told them what was going on. And he told him, when you get back to the unit, this dude's out of here, man. And what they did was they got the dude in the room. They started talking to him. And they did some crazy shit, man. They were in there slapping him. He's like, please let me out. They had a dude holding the door so he couldn't get out. And one of the homies actually pissed on this dude, man. Actually was peeing all over his face and his hair. And he's like, please, man, stop. I'll leave. But they didn't want to just let him leave, man. They were slapping him, punching him, kicking him. Finally, he got out of the cell, went to the cop. And he checked into PC, protective custody. Told the cop, look, man, these guys just beat me up. They rounded up a couple of the homies, put the homies in the hole. But these are the things that happen, right? These are the things that happen to people that victimize kids, man, in prison. It's real. It's raw. These are things that really happen. So if you're thinking about doing stuff like that, remember, man, there are consequences for your actions. You know, it ain't just getting sentenced. You're going to a place where you're going to be traumatized. You may not be beat up physically, but they're going to destroy you emotionally, mentally. I mean, just these things are going to happen. They're going to steal your stuff. You end up in a medium, they're going to beat you up. You're going to go to the hole. You're going to go to the next prison. You're going to probably get beat up again. You're going to go to the hole. I mean, this is the cycle that you're going to live. So you should be thinking about that before you start getting on your computer and, you know, looking at kids or abusing kids, because it's not the place you want to be. What happens in a maximum security federal prison, right? And if you read my book, you know, I think I talk about one of these incidents in my book where they locked the dude in a quiet room and they were punching it, trying to get to him. So if you go to a maximum security federal prison and you are a chomo, you are in danger. You are in serious danger. You will be victimized. You will be assaulted. You will not have the option of going and telling the cop, hey, I got to get out of here. The guys don't want me here. They don't just let you check in a maximum security prison 99.9% of the time. You are leaving a victim. They will stab you. I promise you that. And like I had spoke about on this video the other day, Donnie, Aryan Resistance Militia armed gang member. They killed a chomo in Atlanta. Him and a SAC dude, Soldiers of Aryan Culture, Blue. I think Blue ended up with the death penalty. Donnie ended up with life. I got to check that. But they killed him, man. They killed that chomo. They killed him. Ended his life in the transit center. You are in danger everywhere you go. And this might sound crazy to you. You can't always pick out chomos, but they just fit this profile, man. If you've been to prison, comment on this. Do they not fit that profile? It's usually the guys with the big bulky glasses, a little bit slow, kind of goofy. People pick you out and they're like, yo, I know this dude is one of them dudes. And what happens is when you come to prison, if you're a street dude or you've been involved in, committing crimes, real crimes, dudes can pick you out from your talk. The way that you talk, the way that you present yourself. Don't think you're going to go in there and pretend you were a white-collar guy and you stole millions of dollars. They're not going to find out. These dudes have their wives check you on Pacer. There's all kinds of ways. The cops tell exactly who you are. They show you like they showed me and Lex. So you're in danger, man. You should be thinking about this stuff. Thinking about how real and raw prison is and what happens to people like you if you decide to be that dude. So, who do you think the second most disliked people are in prison? Go ahead. Think about it. I'm going to tell you who they are. They're called sneak thieves. These are people that will steal your stuff when you're not around. Now, I know we just talked about the chomos stealing, getting their stuff stolen. That is sneak thieving, what they do, right? But there's some dudes that'll walk right in the cell and slap you and take your stuff. One of my boys that I'm going to bring on, that was his profession at FMC Lexington. He would go around and rob chomos. But sneak thieving doesn't apply when you're stealing from chomos. It's not sneak thieving. Because they say in prison, hey man, if you're going to steal something, man, walk up and take it. Be a man, do a robbery. And they do armed robberies in there too, I promise you. Be a man and just take it. But the thing is, like with chomos, when you just go in there and you take their stuff, they go tell on you right away. So sneak thieving and telling in prison are two things that don't go together. But if they're going to tell on you, dudes are like, I'm victimizing these dudes. These dudes don't deserve to have nothing. They don't even deserve to live here, but most of the dudes in Lowe's aren't trying to get jammed up. But anyway, sneak thieves. If you steal in prison, I despise these dudes. If you steal in prison and you get caught, your car will not just send you up top. Your car will punish you, but why? They will physically stab you, beat you, hit you with a lock. And I'm going to tell you why this happens. This happens because you are a threat to everybody. If you steal from, let's say and I'm going to use this as an example. Let's say you're a blood, because I've seen this in Raybrook. It was a blood dude, he was getting high, he was stealing people's stuff, stealing radios. You're a blood and you steal one of the Southsiders, one of the Serenos or Mexican Mafia stuff. This creates a big, big issue, man. This could become a race riot. And that's why your car will smash you off the yard. We had that incident in Raybrook, and the New York homies and the Bloods, they took care of it right away. They smashed dude, they kept him in the cell, had a dude holding the door. He couldn't get out. He was screaming, yelling, sounded like he was dying, and he finally made it out, and he ran in the lieutenant's office. And that's not a knock on the homies, or the Bloods or anything like that. That's just an example that I actually seen. So if you steal in a maximum security prison somewhere like Big Sandy, I promise you you're getting stabbed. And some of these dudes are just stealing because that's all they got. They got no hustle. And they're getting high on K2, most of them. So they're going to steal some stuff, man. Their addiction overrides their intelligence. And that addiction could cause them to be brutally murdered in prison. So sneak thieves, man. Sneak thieves are horrible, a threat to everybody. And these are the people that I dislike the most. Up next, category number 3. Let's talk about it. Do you know what a gunner is? Gunners are the people that I dislike the most. I don't like chomos either, but gunners are just as bad. Gunners are dudes that masturbate in prison, man, on the women. They see a woman, they reach in their pants. And they got all kinds of techniques. Dudes that are watching this video, you know what they do. Absolutely disgusting. Some of these dudes cut holes in their pockets in their pants. Some of these dudes cut holes in their jacket and they'll reach through their jacket in the wintertime. They'll go to recreation because there's a female working there. When you're in the hole, and this happened when I was in Big Sandy. In the hole, every week they got all the administration, unit team, ward, and everybody comes down the range once a week to talk to you. Stop at your door. Hey, you okay? What's going on? People voice their concerns to SIS, to the DHO, disciplinary hearing officer, your unit manager. What's up with my transfer? And you will catch these dudes, man. One dude will be on one side, and he'll call over the counselor, the female counselor, while the other dude in the other cell is doing his thing. They got it set up. And the next week, he'll do it for him. People are absolutely disgusting. I can tell you this, in all the prisons I've been to, if you are in the white car and you do something like that, you're getting destroyed. But all cars are not like that. You know, we had an incident in USP Lee where when you came to USP Lee, if you were a gunner, you got a yellow card. You got this big old plastic card that you had to take with you everywhere. So if you've been wrote up for gunning, for masturbating on the women, you get a yellow card. So when you go to education, you got to turn your yellow card in, and everybody sees it. Everybody knows that you are a gunner. So in USP Lee, we got this white dude. He comes on the yard. Next day, he's issued a yellow card. We're like, yo, he has got to go. You know, I've talked about Missouri white dudes being tough dudes. We had this dude named Larry. He was from Missouri. He looked like Kid Rock. Larry, if you're watching this, man, hit me up on the email. So we send Larry, man. Tell Larry's like, yo, man, I want to do it. I want to smash this dude. And I think the dude was actually from Missouri. So Larry jumps on him on the way to rec. And I got to keep it real, man. The gunner was fighting. And he was giving Larry a go for his money, man. You know, it didn't work out for Larry. It didn't work out for him. It was about an even fight. But Larry insisted that it was one of his homies. He was going to handle that business. And it didn't work out. But Larry jumped on him. Those are the people that I dislike most in prison, man. These dudes will tie a string on their toe, have the string go all the way up their leg, pant leg, and they'll sit in education and just move their foot back and forth, like bounce it up and down, up and down. Yeah, I know. Sick stuff, right? Why? Savagery, man, to me. You're doing stuff like that, it spells out sex offender to me. Sex offender. S-O. That's somebody's mother, man. Somebody's sister. Somebody's daughter, and you're doing stuff like that to them. What are you going to do when you get to the street? You going to jump out of the bushes on somebody? We had a dude like that in FMC Lexington, worked out, big dude. And he worked in the psychology department. I think he was from South Carolina. He had been in prison for about 14, 15 years. He'd run out there first thing in the morning. And he'd be watching all the women coming to work, hands in his pants. You would never expect this. To meet this dude in the unit, talk to him, or see him out on the rec yard, lifting weights, working out. I used to call this dude the creep. Me and a couple of the homeboys, but man, look at the creep. Scumbag. When I first met the dude, I thought dude was a good dude, man. And then he used to do that stuff. I was in a low. But there were days, man, where, you know, even though I had changed my life by that point, there were days where I wanted to put that to the side and just blast this dude, man. Just smash him. He lived in my unit, just made me angry and despised. Despiteful, man. I hated this dude, man. I knew hate is a horrible word to use, but man, I have to keep it real. I have to keep it raw. I hated that dude, man. Dude was horrible. He was horrible, and he ended up getting out of prison. I don't know what he did when he got out, but that dude right there was a real predator, man. A lot of these dudes are predators. And a lot of them got an excuse. Oh, man, I got life sentence, man. I got 30 years. Yeah, well, I had 40, man. I never did nothing like that. Go get a magazine or something, man. You don't stand in your window and do this type of shit, man. What is your problem? You got a problem? You need to fix it. So do you want to be around people like that? You want to live your life like that? I'm just wondering. I know one thing. I don't want to be around chomos. I don't want to be around people that might steal my shit, and I got to do something to them. Because it ain't just about them, it's about you too. Because if someone steals your shit, you got to handle your business, man. And handling your business might end up resulting in you killing somebody. Somebody steals your stuff, you got a 10-year sentence. Someone steals your stuff, you hit him, and don't think that this stuff don't happen. It don't happen regularly, but it could happen. You hit him, he falls, hits his head, and he dies. And now your cop out's 25 years. And he stole your stuff. You don't want to be in that environment. Be around gunners, people that pull their pants down in the middle of a classroom. I've seen some crazy shit, man. I've seen some stuff where you're like, where do they do that at? Where did they find this dude? Maybe those are the type of dudes that they should throw in a mental institution. Because they need it, man. Because they're going to victimize your sister. They're going to victimize your mother, or your cousin, or your friend. Possibly your wife or your girlfriend. I hope you liked the video, man. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.